We'll start off with the national anthem. Please raise up for the national anthem, all of us.
उन्हें भी म्यूट कर दो, इन्होंने तो नेशनल एंथम लगा दिया, अब हम गाड़ी रोक के कहाँ खड़े होंगे?
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा, विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा, तव शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभ आशीष मांगे, गाहे तव जय गाथा, जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे। I would just to welcome our esteemed chief guest, Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, Dr. Kiran Bedi Madam, and our patrons, the webinar patron, Dr. S.P. Sharma Sir, President RSSCP, and Dr. Naveen Malhotra, National Secretary RSSCP. A very warm welcome to S.P. Sharma Sir and Naveen Sir. And also the webinar chairperson, our HOD, Joseph Rajesh Sir. He is at present addressing the important disaster management meeting, which was fixed in the last minute. So instead of him, Dr. Pratibha would be there with us, replacing him. So I welcome you all, sir. Now I would request our webinar patron, Dr. S.P. Sharma Sir, President RSSCP, to address and deliver a few words to all of us.
Thank you, Dr. Vijayakshmi. Honorable Chief Guest, Lieutenant Governor, Pondicherry, Dr. Kiran Bedi, Patron of RSCP, Dr. Kaul, Secretary of RSCP, Dr. Naveen Malhotra, all executive members of RSCP, Organizing Chairperson of Webinar, Dr. Rajesh, Head of Department of Anesthesia, Organizing Secretary, Dr. Vijayalakshmi, and all participants. I welcome you all in the third webinar organized by the Research Society of Anesthesiology and Clinical Pharmacology. I am pleased and privileged to welcome the Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Pondicherry, Dr. Kiran Bedi, who has kindly agreed to give us an inspirational talk which we all, especially the young doctors, deserve to listen. RSCP and its members express our gratitude to you, Madam, for sparing the time from your busy schedule. Thank you very much. RSCP Society is moving forward in organizing its educative programs. Our society always encourages the research activities, conducts the CMEs, workshop, and other education sessions. In this COVID pandemic, we are managing our activities by webinars, thanks to technology, which is giving the way to manage such educative programs. Today's webinar is on regional anesthesia and pain management topics. These are the important topics which are dealing. We are dealing the day-to-day working of the anesthesia. It will be definitely update our knowledge and will be useful in managing the patients in better way. Besides this, another important part of the webinar is PG focus session, that is quiz, which is always exciting for the PGs. Quizzing is not only for fun, but also sharpens the mind, especially for the youngsters. They must have participated they should participate with the great enthusiasm and full energy. As RSCP always encourages PGs, the winning PGs would be given fabulous prizes and other PGs will be motivated for future. I am thankful to Dr. Rajesh, Head of Department, Dr. Vijayalakshmi, for organizing this webinar. I am also thankful to our esteemed speakers, Dr. Pandya, Dr. Ranjan, and Dr. Thoda. And once again, I am thankful to all participants with the deep gratitude to the Honorable Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Kiran Bedi. Looking forward to you for kind words. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for those kind words. Now we move on to a few words by our dynamic National Secretary, Dr. Naveen Malhotra, sir, RSSCP, a webinar patron. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Vijayalakshmi. Respected Dr. Kiran Bedi, Honorable Lieutenant General of Governor of Puducherry, Chief Guest of today's scientific event, Dr. Tej K. Kaul, Patron Research Society of Anesthesiology, Dr. S.P. Sharma, President RSSCP, office bearers, and members of RSSCP family. Wish you all a very happy Janmashtami. Heartiest congratulations to RSSCP Puducherry branch for organizing this scientific event relevant to the current scenario. Organizing Chairperson Dr. Joseph I. Rajesh, Organizing Secretary Dr. Vijayalakshmi S., RSSCP Governing Council member, and their team have worked very hard in organizing this event. Today is International Yoga Day also, and the International Youth Day also, and the organizing committee has kept a quiz for young postgraduates to celebrate, honor, appreciate, and award the power of youth, the present and future of our great nation, India. RSSCP is a society dedicated to research and clinics in the field of anesthesiology. I'm happy to share with you, madam, that in the current COVID pandemic, 60 to 70% of the doctors working in COVID areas wearing PPE are anesthesiologists. Madam, I live in Rohtak, near to Delhi, and I have in my childhood witnessed your exemplary work in Delhi Police. Salutes to you, madam. I'm sure deliberations of today's webinar will be fruitful for all delegates. Thank you all. Long live RSSCP. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for those. Now I would wish Dr. Pratibha would speak on behalf of our HOD, Dr. Rajesh sir, who's a webinar chairperson. I am extremely sorry that he's not here right now. He's attending a meeting, emergency meeting, which has been scheduled just in the afternoon. So Dr. Pratibha, over to you.
To everyone, on behalf of the Department of A very warm good evening to everyone. On behalf of the Department of Anesthesiology, IGMCRI, the dedicated COVID hospital of the Union Territory of Puducherry, and the organizing team, I take immense pleasure in welcoming every one of you for this academic webinar, which is also jointly organized by the Research Society of Anesthesiology and Clinical Pharmacology. At the outset, I take this opportunity to welcome our Chief Guest of Honor, who is none other than our dynamic, our Honorable Lieutenant Governor Dr. Kiran Bedi Madam, who has immediately consented to address this gathering with a motivational talk. It is a great privilege to welcome you, Madam. We are eagerly awaiting for your message, Madam. Also, it's my great pleasure to welcome the patrons of the webinar, Dr. S.P. Sharma, President RSACP, Dr. Naveen Malhotra, Sir, Secretary RSACP. The caliber of success of any scientific program is gauged by its faculty. They say, in that way, we are extremely lucky and privileged to have esteemed specialists as our faculty for this program. I extend my warm and sincere greetings to all our guest faculty, Dr. Ranjan, Dr. Sanjeev Palta, Dr. Sunil Pandya, Dr. Karnakaran, Dr. Raghu Thota, and Dr. Atmaja Thotungal, who are eagerly awaiting to make sure this program will turn out to be a real academic fest. I'm immensely happy to welcome every one of you who is participating in this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratibha. So as we move on to the eagerly much awaited address by Madam, Isha, are you there, or can I introduce Madam?
We are here.
Yes, can I introduce, or I'll be okay? Good evening, Madam.
I'm with you.
Good to go. Good to go. So very happy to see you, Madam. We are very, very happy to see you. I thought I'll give a brief introduction to you. Everyone knows you, but still a brief introduction, if you permit me. I know we've crossed the time by 1 minute. I know time is your main prerogative. Can I go ahead, or you'll start off, Madam?
Cut out the introduction.
Yes, okay. Everyone is eager for you, Madam. Right. The stage is all yours. We warm welcome to the chief guest of today's program, Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, Dr. Kiran Bedi, Madam.
So let me admire what you're doing. Pan-India Corona Warrior. Hey, this is a very tongue twister. Anesthesia. I can speak anesthesia, but now this is anesthesiologists, right? Well, thank you so much. Let me say congratulations to this Pan-India Corona Warrior Anesthesiologist Conference. And let me mention some wonderful doctors being there. Dr. S.P. Sharma, who's the president of the RSACP. Dr. Naveen Malhotra, who's the national secretary of the RSACP. Dr. Joseph Rajesh, professor in HOD, Department of Anesthesiology of the Indira Gandhi Medical College and Research Institute, Puducherry. Dr. Joseph, right? I know you and I connect with each other on our WhatsApp group, so I can now place the name. And representing him is our own associate professor, Dr. Pratibha, and as HOD will be attending disaster management meeting today. Okay, so he must be in our control room.
Yes, ma'am.
We are all going through very, very challenging times. I hope you don't none of us get to see it again. But I think at the moment we got to jump over this hump. It's a very serious crisis for everybody, whether it's a person in khaki, whether it's a person in white, dressed warriors in white or khaki or olive green, everywhere the uniform is under a very tremendous pressure. And then we as bureaucrats sitting who are in our civies, I'm equally challenging for the politicians. Every day when I open my WhatsApp message, I'm afraid to see what's happened. Something's gone, somebody's going, somebody's just tested positive. So it's a very, very serious situation. I've not seen this crisis, but our forefathers had seen world wars, pandemics, plagues, droughts, cyclones, tsunamis. Our elders had seen, but we hadn't. And I think probably it was our turn to see something like this. Nature has its own leveling effect. But by the way, I want to thank you for this invitation before. And I had I'd lost my voice about 6 days ago, overstating, overspeaking, over-communicating, doing webinars every day. But I recovered very well last 3 days by giving it a voice rest. And I'm still at little rest, but I won't overstrain. But for you, I'd written a message that in case I can't speak directly, I will have my Isha friend, Isha Arora, speak to you. But now that I've got my voice back, I thought I will do my duty. But I've written a message and I will take your permission to read it. It's just 1-page message. Dr. Sharma, may I? Jagdish Chandra ji, can I? Dr. Sunil Pandya, Dr. Arush, Ashwin, there's so many doctors around. I want to tell you how much in my personal life, as all of us owe our lives to our doctors. I owe a long life of my father to my doctor. I would have lost my daddy at the age of 6 or 7 if a great doctor had not saved his life. Imagine, I wouldn't have been here sitting today if my father had not been saved by his doctor friend, who was his tennis friend. My father had a very severe motorcycle accident, and my doctor, the then doctor, my daddy, before he shut his eyes, he told my mother, get my doctor so-and-so. If he comes, I'm safe. Imagine the kind of trust my father had in his doctor friend he used to play tennis with. And I was only 6. And I remember the scene because I was playing outside. There was a swing. We didn't know the gravity of the situation. But my father was grappling between life and death. And I was only 6. And we were 3 girls already in the house. And my father was the part of a landed joint family. Imagine if my father had gone, my mother would have had to probably go back to her own parents' home. And what would have been my fate, I don't know. So I also owe whatever I am today also to a doctor who saved my father's life when I was only 6 years old. So I want to thank you all doctors for what you do in your life, how much life you give to everybody. I want to thank you enough. It's not enough at all. It's not enough. But I want to thank you because whenever there's an invite from doctors, I always say yes, because I know what it means to all of us. So here are my words which I wrote for you. is to say, Dr. Friends, you are where you all wanted to be, and that you worked for it. You worked very, very hard. I know what doctor's education means. My daughter tried her hand and gave up. I know. She tried her hand and she gave up. After 1 year passing in Lady Harding, she gave up. And that was a major cause of conflict between me and my daughter. Why couldn't she be a doctor? She got a merit list from the Mizoram government list, merit list, but she didn't, because it was so tough for her. So I understand the size of books she had. So you are where you worked for it. That's why I said that. And that you prayed to get here. I'm sure you all prayed to get wherever you are, because it's a rare seat that you all get. It's a very rare position as a doctor when you qualify for this examination. Or you pay through the nose. You pay through a very heavy fee, a very heavy bank loan, and you get it. You were also well aware of the deep challenges your specialty now, anesthesiology, demands and faces, which is anesthesia. Because I know when anesthesists, we've all gone through what this stands for. Hence, I would say, rise to the occasion. Now you are facing your life's biggest challenge, like warriors in white. I think doctors have never faced this kind of challenge, I believe, as a community. As individuals, yes, but never as a community, where there's a herd and a herd and a herd. It's a flow after a flow. What do you do with them? So therefore, you have never faced this kind of life challenge as today. While you are life givers, to my mind, pray for your patients. This is my message. While you are life givers, pray for your patients. Pray for healing powers in your hands. That, to my mind, is my message. When you pray for your patients, you will succeed. So when you touch a patient, pray for your patient. Pray for the recovery of your patient. You will see your prayers getting healed and answered. While I don't have to tell you what you need to be extra careful about, because we're talking of COVID times, I don't have to tell you, you know much more than I know what you have to be extra careful. Extra careful. I'm using the word extra because every one of you is exceedingly precious, because you're going to be spending the rest of your life saving hundreds and hundreds of lives. Therefore, your one life means healing and giving life to hundreds and hundreds. Therefore, please do not take a single chance with yourself. Therefore, I would say 100% careful for your own self and the lives of others, including ones at home, where you go back to. You go back to your families, you owe them also safety. So therefore, all that is readed, please do that. Remember, I would say inspirational is internally generated. A friend of yours who invited me and did a dialogue with me, she said, give you an inspirational message, as you said. I would say inspiration is internally generated. I can tell you how I draw my inspiration every day, and then it's just an example. I draw my inspiration every morning, first of all, by doing a personal regime of fitness. I give myself quiet time. I give myself some yoga. I give myself a little external exercise. I move out into the nature. I become part of the nature every morning. I like the fresh air. I get out of my air conditioning, everything. And I move into the nature, rain or shine. If it's rain, I have an umbrella. I take an umbrella. But the point is, I love to be in the heart of nature. So remember, inspirational is not a neuroborn injection or a B complex or a polybiol. It is an internal ingestion, not injection. It's an internal digestion where you look for your own food. Now, everybody's food of taste is different. Mine is this. Yours could be mantras. Yours could be prayer. Yours could be Gita reading. Yours could be some other spiritual reading. You could be listening to music, or you just meditate. Every one of us has our own morning nutrition. Please find your own morning nutrition. It's extremely essential for you to go charge, go with your morning nutrition, with a happy positivity to the patients who need you, who are waiting for you. So sit quietly for yourself daily, a few minutes. Recharge your inner energies. Seek divine blessings and guidance daily, because you are in a very, very unique position where your prayers for others will become selfless and therefore will work much more than the patient praying for himself. Ensure family support now. This is very important. Your family support is your backbone of this profession. Therefore, your spouses, your children, your parents, your in-laws, your friends, at your extent, whoever is staying with you at home, your house help, your house support, who you pay for, is your very precious support. Please see that they're all happy with you and that they serve you. You need this family support. I'm a product of remarkable family support. Office support systems, family support systems, home support system. Because when you're working at 24/7, you need everything in place. You need care, you need rest, you need the right kind of food, you need somebody to understand you. So therefore, ensure family and home support for you to get full rest when you go home. Tension should not wait for you. Problems cannot wait for you. They will have to find another way. But when you go back home, please request your family to not keep your problems, their problems waiting for you and to pounce on you. Not to pounce on you. Not that you need to be a very good communicator with your family. Family must respect where is mommy and daddy coming from after doing what. Read something inspirational every day. Find a way, whichever book you read. I look at messages. I read Economic Times, the Times of India, and basically I look for the speaking tree in Times of India. I look for the same kind of tree in the Economic Times. And they're very interesting centerpieces also, which inspire you. I keep a very good library of my own to inspire myself. In fact, behind me, you see a whole library of documentation. It's all documentation of inspirational thoughts. So therefore, keep a little library of your own and preserve it to revisit it. Listen to some soothing music daily if you can, when you're bathing, when you're brushing your teeth, or even doing some external exercise. Listen to your inspirational music if you can. Remember, phones are, now I'm going to give you an example. Now you ask me inspiration. Just as the phone is externally recharged, it's not internally recharged. You have to plug it at the right place and get it externally recharged. Otherwise you get discharged and finished. But inspiration is internally recharged. So if you can work on your own recipes and nutritions of sources of internal recharge, and as I said, everybody's source is different. Tastes are different, preferences are different. So therefore, just as telephones are externally recharged, and you can't do without them, without their functioning, similarly, mind, body, soul also needs a morning regular nutrition. Otherwise, it also becomes one wooden response and a body. It's a log. No, it's not a log. It's a sensitive, breathing, responding, life-giving, energy-giving human source. So therefore, inner spirit needs an inner recharge. So find your own recharges, which is, as I said, you yourself. But very important, which I do very carefully, is watch my thoughts. I'm a very strong observer of my own thoughts. The moment a negativity comes in, I look for a solution rather than feed the negative thought. So and I'm a policewoman. See, I am trained to watch others. I also police myself and I watch my own thoughts. So my concept is called self-policing. So I self-police my thoughts and I do not feed negativity, but I feed a lot of positivity. So if you can also, despite these challenges that you have, do not feed negativity, feed positivity, take extra care, go with healing prayers and go as white coat warriors in the current situation to say, I am blessed today to go and serve humanity and save humanity. So watch your thoughts, as I said, to look forward to healing daily. That's my last message. Look forward to a daily healing. You are blessed God has sent you for a purpose. You asked for it, you worked for it, you prayed for it, and then you've earned it. And that's your destiny. You've chosen this as your destiny. Everybody is not in the same kind of position. So may God continue to make you succeed and give you healing powers. When you do anesthesia to others, all bounce back to life, bounce back to breathing, and you feel good that now your patient is back, breathing well, conscious, alive, seeing you, and say thank you to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much, LG madam, for your wonderful and riveting address, which would definitely bring out the best in us, in all of us, and we will become more determined to find this pandemic, definitely. And in spite of having your voice strain, you have taken out the time. We are so happy for that, and thank you immensely. And you definitely today gave us that message, similar to that of Krishna, who had given to Arjuna on the battlefield of Mahabharata. So we will take this message forward, and definitely we will pray for our patients, as you said.
And
it's
with
very important.
Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, I want to thank you for your personal invite too, and your team invite. But I want to tell you what Krishna is that karam karte jao, karam karna, tumhara kaam hai karam karna, result mere pe chhod do. आप अपना कर्म करते जाओ. अगर हम ये philosophy करेंगे, लेकिन intelligently कर्म करेंगे, intelligently, smartly, carefully, willingly, positively, तो आज भगवान कृष्ण का दिन है. हम सब भगवान कृष्ण से प्रार्थना करते हैं कि आप सबकी मेहनत खूब कामयाब हो, क्योंकि आपकी कामयाबी से हमारी कामयाबी. Thank you. Thank you, Vijay Lakshmi.
So much. Thank you so much, ma'am, that you have come. And this is a blessing for all of us on Janmashtami.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, ma'am, I think you will be going for the meeting, I guess, leaving shortly. We thank all of you on behalf of our patrons and chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next, as we move ahead after that dynamic address, so next comes, as sir said, today is World Youth Day. So we move on to the youth of RSSCP. So we want them to participate actively, and we'll go ahead with the RSSCP PG Quest 2020. So let me quickly, before I hand over the hosting, Pratibha could start off. I'll just introduce the quiz masters. The first quiz master is Dr. Suman Lata Madam, additional professor from JIPMER Puducherry. She's got a lot of achievements, got prize in North Zone 2008, presented in various international conferences, Ireland, Indonesia, Tokyo, Rome, and has several publications, international and national, and her areas of interest are transplant anesthesia, simulation training, airway management, and ultrasound nerve block. So she's the chief quiz master today. So the second quiz master is Dr. Pratibha N. She's our associate professor, IGMC Puducherry, a very dynamic person, faculty of various international, national, state conferences, Best Doctor Award by Lions Club Puducherry, several publications to her name, more than 11, and areas of interest are simulation, obstetric anesthesia. So over to Pratibha, and you can start off your quiz of 2020 RSSCP.
Me, Dr. Suman, all our countdowns ends and we are here for the quiz 2020. All of you are ready?
Are the PGs ready? So Naveen sir, can we start?
Please go ahead, Dr. Suman and Dr. Pratibha. I know you have worked very hard for this, and on behalf of Dr. S.P. Sharma, I can only say this, that the winners will get good prizes, and all participants will be also awarded on behalf of RSSAP. The first prize is 10,000, second prize is 5,000, and third prize is 3,000. But all participants of the quiz will also get some complimentary prize. Best wishes to all of you.
You can, all of PGs are ready. You can read the rules on the screen.
Pratibha, before you start, you can just mute all the others other than the PGs, no? That's what is your rules.
Vijayalakshmi, you're also the co-host. Can you just mute everyone?
Huh?
You can mute everyone, Vijayalakshmi.
Yes, one second.
Please do the muting.
Done?
Yes. Yes, done. 1 minute, ma'am. I'm unmute. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
I'm reading the rules. There are 25 questions, 45 seconds for each question, 1 point for each correct answer, no negative marking. Compose answers in single draft and send it to the mail which is seen in the screen. Participants are accepted to keep the video on and the audio off. Audience are accepted to audio and video off. Use your laptop, preferably open 2 windows, one for Zoom, one for mail. Cut-off time to send the answer is 1 minute after the last question. Tie-breaker questions will be decided. The winners in case of tie, which will be conducted at the end of the webinar. All of you are ready? We'll go ahead.
One small request, madam. In the chat box, please don't enter anything while the quiz is going on. That's a small request to all of you. Thank you.
So this is the format of how you're going to send the answers. So I request you to open 2 windows, one for the Zoom and one for the mail. Please open your mail and you make, I think I've already sent this in the morning so that it would have been easy for you now. So you'll be able to answer side by side, and by the end, 25th question, you'll be given 1 minute extra to send the mail. So please go through this once again, and we'll be starting in a minute. So go through the rules again.
Especially note down the email ID.
I hope all of you
They already know it.
Yeah.
I hope all of you have opened the windows, 2 windows. So this is the mail window. Okay, now let's go to the first question.
જે માટે લીએ ને એમાં આપણે પાસે વધારે આવે છે જે બોલાવે જે પરિમળ
Unmute this hand.
So we come to the end of this round of quiz, and you have to send the answer to the email which is reflecting on the screen. Make sure the answers are sent on this email only.
I think some of them have sent to the WhatsApp group. Please remove it. You can remove it in 7 minutes. Please remove it.
Please remove it from the WhatsApp group, send to the email. I'm again reminding you, the answer should come to the email address. Because the WhatsApp answer can be seen by everyone. It is open to all the contestants. And the results will be declared after all the session gets over. But you keep login, because for the tie round, after the result has been declared, then only the tie round will be taking place. So you don't leave in between. You have to continue to track your position in the quiz.
Dr. Anil, PG from Rohtak, kindly remove the answer which you have sent in the group.
You're allowing all the others to get your prize, Dr. Anil.
You have already leaked out the answers, Dr. Anil. I think you will make sure that we go for a tiebreaker questions. Dr. Vijayalakshmi, you can go ahead. We'll go with the calculations.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
So the end of the...
And don't go away. Wait till the end for the results.
Kindly keep yourself logged in, because looks like we might go for tiebreaker questions also. So please be online till the end of the session, till the end of the webinar. Thank you, Vijayalakshmi.
Okay. Thank you, Pratibha. So as we move on to the next session, am I audible, Dr. Pratibha?
Yeah, you're audible. Please go on.
Someone is saying no audio, that's why. So as we move on to the next session, So the next session would be the first session of our today evening talks. That will be, it is done both by Ranjan sir and Sanjeev Palta sir. So it would be regional anesthesia and anticoagulants, one of the most frequently asked in the exams. So to start with, I'll just introduce briefly the moderator of today's session, Dr. Sanjeev Palta, MD. He's a professor in GMC Chandigarh, and he's the ex-secretary North Zone ISA, ex-secretary Chandigarh branch of ISA, and present GC member of RSCCP. And he's also section editor of JOACP with a huge number of publications, 37. So over to you, sir. So you can introduce a speaker for today, Dr. Ranjan Harvi.
Thank you, ma'am. Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, my thanks to the organizing committee, Dr. Joseph I. Rajesh, and especially to Dr. Vijayalakshmi. And my thanks to Dr. S.P. Sharma also and Dr. Naveen Malhotra for considering me for this opportunity. And for the first topic of regional anesthesia and anticoagulation, so I have the privilege to introduce to you Dr. Ranjan Harvi. He is a professor in PIMS Puducherry, and is the president of ISA Puducherry branch. He is the past secretary ISA Puducherry, and he has been a faculty in zonal and state conferences. And his area of interest is cardiothoracic anesthesia and ultrasound guided regional anesthesia. And he has more than 15 publications to his credit. Now over to Dr. Ranjan for a very useful academic discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. A host can enable my screen sharing, please, if it's possible.
Yes, sir. 1 sec, sir.
So we have a few minutes before the host shares my screen. My audio is good, Dr. Sanjeev Patla. Is it okay, sir?
It's absolutely fine. I mean, clear.
Yeah. I would request, can I have 20 minutes for my presentation?
Yes, sir, please.
Because we are already starting 5 minutes earlier.
Yeah, thank you so much. So,
Dr. Naveen, sir, can you make him a co-host, please?
Already made, madam. Already made.
Yes. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Now I can.
Sir, you can share.
Okay. Give me 1 minute.
Sir, you can mute all.
Is my PowerPoint visible? Can I start?
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir. Please go.
So with your permission.
Mute all, sir, all of us. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, good evening to all the members and my dear students and the respected Dr. Sanjeev Palta. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. My special thanks to Dr. Rajesh and Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, believing in me that I will be able to do justice to this topic. So today I'll be talking mainly on the regional anesthesia and anticoagulation. So when we say regional anesthesia, it varies from local infiltration up to epidural blocks and spinal blocks. So similarly, when we are talking about anticoagulation and regional anesthesia, the complication also varies from local infiltration to spinal anesthesia. What I mean to say is the complication rate is very minimal in superficial and facial blocks like TAB block or erector spinae blocks, whereas the complication rates are higher in deep blocks, and it is maximum when come to combined spinal epidural or epidural blocks. So in 20 minutes, I may not be able to cover everything. So I'll restrict myself to central neuraxial blocks and the regional anesthesia. So basically, I'll be talking why this talk. There are 2-3 articles which will tell why it is important. After that few minutes, we will refresh ourselves with the physiology and classification of anticoagulation, and our basic trust will be on different drugs of different anticoagulants and how they affect our regional anesthesia. My entire talk is on ASRA guideline, 2018 ASRA guidelines. Now, evidence, first, there are a lot of articles, but I particularly took this article, which was published in 2015 BJA, where they analyzed 11,600 epidural, which was done in 7 years in Massachusetts General Hospital. And the incidence of spinal hematoma was 0.00005%, as low as that. However, if the patient has anticoagulate, either because of intraoperatively or preoperatively he was on anticoagulation, the incidence increases 10,000 folds. That means out of 629 patients, 2 patients had epidural hematoma. The incidence was 0.3%. Now you can imagine how important to know about the anticoagulation and epidural hematoma. There's one more study which was against published in BJA in 2018, where they analyzed 647 cases of epidural hematoma. It's almost 50-60 years of epidural hematomas which were studied, and they found out that the most of the complication is when you remove the catheter, epidural catheter, and the symptoms are mainly motor deficit, sensory deficits, and the pain. The treatment strategies, early assessment and doing a neurosurgical decompression is the treatment of choice. Only 20-25% of the patients were managed conservatively. Neurosurgical recovery will be very good if you intervene within 6 hours, best within 12 hours, full recovery in 50% of the patient. If you don't identify these cases, the recovery in another 50%, the recovery was almost nil, only partial recovery. So that is why it is important to know what is the importance of this regional anesthesia and anticoagulation. Just about the coagulation physiology, it is important to know how the drugs act and how this coagulation cascade takes place. I know that new theory of coagulation has come, but to understand the pharmacology of the drugs, we need to go to the classical pathway of coagulations. This is a small video which will tell us how the classical pathway of coagulation takes place. Right? I'm going to the classical extrinsic and intrinsic pathway systems. So whenever we have a breach in the epithelium, so the first thing what happens is these platelets, these white colored platelets, they come and get attached, adhesion and aggregation of the platelet. So in the similar manner, when the epithelium is exposed, now what happens is the underneath tissue factor also gets exposed. These tissue factors are the one which initiates the coagulation cascade. They activate the factor 7, then activated factor 7 in turn activates factor 10. right? Now this factor 10 is an important product. This activated factor 10 enters into the common pathway. Similarly, the other factors like factor 12, 11, as well as 9 and factor 8, they get activated by activating themselves, and this complex will again activate factor 10. So factor 10 is activated both by intrinsic and the extrinsic and enters the common pathway. This is an important step. The factor 10 is an important part. Factor 10, when combines with the 5A, converts prothrombin into thrombin. This complex, the 10A and 5A complex, one complex can convert thousands of prothrombin into thrombin. This released thrombin, they have two functions. This thrombin it can attract more platelets, more platelet adhesion and aggregation. Second, this thrombin activates the fibrin. This fibrin monomers gets activated and binds together to find fibrin polymers, which will helps in plugging of the platelets and the RBCs and help in prevention of the bleeding. This is good in case of acute physiological changes. Unfortunately, few patients, this act as a pathology. In such patients, we put them on drugs. We call them as exogenous inhibitors of clotting. They are classified into anticoagulant, thrombolytics, and antiplatelet drugs. Since for the discussion, I'll be limiting myself only to the anticoagulants. Now, anticoagulants are classified into thrombin inhibitors, which are heparins, as well as low molecular, and direct thrombin inhibitors, mainly dabigatran and argatroban, and antithrombin 3, they are fondaparinux. Also, new oral anticoagulant factor 10A inhibitors, they are also there. Then the other group of drugs are the one which inhibit the coagulation factors and dicumarol. Now these drugs, how do they act? All of them, as I told you, the factor 10 is an important part. Factor 10 is an important part which most of the drugs act. Warfarin acts on 2,7. Can we mute the other speakers, please? Okay. Heparin acts.
You unmute yourself. Dr. Ranjan, you unmute yourself.
These are the drugs which directly acts on the thrombin. Okay, there's a small video which will tell us how the heparin and low molecular weight heparins act. Okay, I will just forward this till we get the mechanism of action. Okay, so heparin, the unfractionated heparin, basically it stimulates antithrombin 3, which in turn activates the which inhibits the factor 10A, right? And also the unfractionated heparin acts on factor 2A, which in turn inhibits platelet. So heparin is an antiplatelet as well as. Okay, whereas low molecular weight and fondaparinux, they have only one action. They act for changes in the antithrombin 3, which inhibits factor 10A. They have no action on the factor 2, and hence there are no action on the platelet. So heparin-induced thrombocytopenia, you will see only in unfractionated heparin, whereas low molecular weight heparin fondaparinux will not cause any heparin-induced thrombocytopenia, and it is very difficult to monitor these patients. Now let's see the effect of heparin and anticoagulations, heparin and the regional anesthesia. So intravenous unfractionated heparin, this is very rarely used as a prophylactic agent. Nowadays, the indication is only during balloon angioplasty as well as during the CABG surgery. Intraoperatively, it is used during a vascular surgery when the surgeon is clamping, right? So how to use this? If the patient is already on heparin, unfractionated heparin, we should do the neuroaxial technique. The gap should be around 6 hours. Once the technique is performed, then you should use the heparin only after 1 hour, and you can remove the catheter only after 6 hours of the last dose. I'll give you an example. Let's see we are planning to do a combined spinal epidural at 8 a.m. for a femoral popliteal bypass procedure. Okay, you have done a combined spinal epidural, you are planning at 8 a.m. So for such patient, if the patient is on IV heparin, unfractionated heparin, the last dose should be at 2 a.m. Okay, so after 8 a.m. you perform the procedure, till 9 a.m. no heparin should be given. Okay, let's say at around 11 o'clock they did a clamping, they asked for 5,000 international heparin, and the procedure is over by 12 o'clock. And now you want to remove the catheter, at least 6-hour gap should be given. So you will be removing the catheter only after 5 p.m. And once you remove the catheter, after 6 p.m., you can re-heparinize the patient. So this is how we go the regional anesthesia technique if the patient is on IV heparin. In case, if there is a bloody tab or if there is a multiple attempt for epidural, you should discuss with the surgeon that ideally it should be postponed for 24 hours. However, if the procedure is emergency or semi-emergency, go ahead, but use very low concentration of local anesthetic to assess the sensory and motor function post-operatively. If you find any problem, immediately MRI should be done and neurosurgical decompression has to be performed. Now, heparinization during cardiopulmonary bypass. This is a controversial topic. In the mid 2000 to 2010, a lot of cardiac surgeries were done with the help of a thoracic epidural. But there were a lot of complications. Now, with the advent of ultrasound, most of the sternotomy we can do bilateral erector spinae as an analgesic, for thoracotomy unilateral erector spinae as an analgesic, and erector spinae has no complication or contraindication if the patient is on heparin. Now let's see, we saw IV heparin, now let's see subcutaneous unfractionated heparin. This is one of the most commonly used drug for thromboprophylaxis. Now we have 3 types of prophylaxis or 3 types of doses available for subcutaneous heparin preoperatively. First one is low-dose thromboprophylaxis, where we use 5,000 units subcutaneously 2 to 3 times. Then we have high-dose thromboprophylaxis, where we use up to 10,000 units subcutaneously per day. And we have therapeutic dose, where we use more than 20,000 units per day in a divided dose. So we have 3 different types of unfractionated heparin. These type of patient can come to surgery. Now, how do we manage them? Now let's see, if the patient, we are planning to do the procedure at 8 a.m. and the patient is on low dose prophylactic, around 5,000 units subcutaneously. For that such patient, the last dose should be 6 hours before the spinal epidural technique. 6-hour gap should be there between the last dose and the epidural technique. If the patient is on high dose prophylactic, then there should be 12-hour difference between the last dose. If you are planning to do it at 8 a.m., the last dose should be 8 p.m. previous night. And if the patient is on therapeutic dose at more than 20,000 units, the last dose should be 24 hours before the spinal epidural technique. That is at 8 a.m. previous night. Now, you can do the procedure, you did the procedure.
He will come eventually and somebody will see him. And surgery
started.
So they're okay with that. And the embolism wali mulki पण
so please mute the other than the speaker, everybody should mute, please.
Yeah. So the procedure is over and you want to start the heparin. Can we start the heparin and keep the epidural catheter? Yes, if the patient is on low dose heparin, prophylactic dose, you can still start the heparin and keep the epidural catheter in place and remove the catheter 6 hours after the last dose, and you can restart the heparin 1 hour after the catheter is removed. However, if the patient is on high dose prophylactic or if he is on therapeutic dose, you should assess the risk benefit ratio. Ideally, catheter should not be in place. However, if the catheter you have inserted, use low dose concentration and remove the catheter 24 hours after you remove the catheter and restart the heparin 24 hours after removing the catheter, right? Now, the third one, the low molecular weight heparin. Most commonly used, cardiologists are very happy with these drugs, and it is very more, it is very stable, least side effect, need not be monitored. So low molecular weight heparin are the one which are most commonly used as a prophylactic. The only problem is the spinal hematoma. the incidence of spinal hematoma on patients who are on low molecular weight heparin is so it is given subcutaneously every 12 hours in a thromboprophylaxis dose, double the dose, that is around 60 to 80 mg is given for a therapeutic dose. Okay. So how do we manage? If the patient is on prophylactic low molecular weight heparin, at least 12-hour gap should be there between the last dose and the epidural technique. And the post-operatively, you remove once the catheter is removed, you can restart only 12 hours after the last dose. Whereas in therapeutic, you need 24 hours gap between the last dose and performance of the combined spinal epidural. And post-operatively, you can start only after 24 to 48 hours, depending upon the bleeding risk. If there is any bloody tap or a multiple attempt, post-operative dose should be delayed as late as 24 hours. Okay. The newer drugs, the fondaparinux, which is an anti-factor Xa agent. Unfortunately, the newer drugs, we don't have any prospective or retrospective studies. We don't have much knowledge about these drugs. Even ASRA has no guideline about it. But ASRA, as well as European Society, they say that you look at the plasma half-life of these drugs. All the newer drugs, you look at the plasma half-life. The plasma half-life, for the performance of spinal epidural, you need to give a gap of 5 times the plasma half-life. For example, the fondaparinux, the half-life is 17 to 21 hours. That means let's take 20 hours. So 20 into 5, 100 hours. 100 hours should be the gap between the last dose and the performance of spinal epidural techniques. 100 hours means 4 to 5 days. Okay, after the procedure is over, you can restart only 6 hours later, you remove the catheter. Then with the newer drugs, dabigatran and argatroban, they're basically thrombin inhibitors. Okay, thrombin has got 3 sites, and the dabigatran and argatroban basically act on the active enzyme site. And again, the same thing, you should look at the termination half-life, 12 to 17 hours, take it as a 15 hours. 15 into 5 is 75 hours. So you should stop the drug 75 hours before, that is around 4 days before the procedure, and you can restart the drug after you remove the catheter. At least 6-hour gap should be there. Then the most commonly used Indian drug is the warfarin. The warfarin, you know how it acts. It is a vitamin K dependent factors, and it is mainly used for thromboprophylaxis in AF or valvular heart disease, as well as for thromboembolism prevention. The ASRA guidelines, we all know warfarin should be discontinued at least 5 days before the neuroaxial procedure, and ASRA says INR should be less than 1.2 before performing any neuroaxial technique, whereas European guidelines say it should be less than 1.4 before performing any neuroaxial techniques. However, if the patient is on dual drugs like warfarin plus aspirin or warfarin plus NSAID, no neuroaxial technique should be performed. Bridging therapy, yes, if the patient is on chances of thromboembolism is very low, then you need not put the patient on bridging therapy, but the chances is high, then you have to put them on low molecular weight heparin or subcutaneous unfractionated heparin, which we already saw how to manage this patient, right? Post-operatively, patient at a low risk of thromboembolism, you can resume warfarin on post-op day 1. High risk means again you have to bridge with the low molecular weight heparin. Remove the catheter only if the INR is less than 1.5, right? Okay, since I'm running short of time, these newer drugs, I won't be going in detail. You just have to remember the termination half-life, increase it to 5 times. You will have the time duration gap between the last dose and combined spinal epidural technique. To summarize, you always should weigh the benefit versus risk of performing a spinal epidural technique in a patient who is an anticoagulated. If a patient is simple, no other complication, contraindication for general anesthesia, and if the patients are anticoagulated, go for general anesthesia. There is no complications. However, if the patient has a complication like his upper respiratory tract infection, he's very obese, a difficult airway, then only you should go for regional anesthesia. If you're planning regional anesthesia, use single shot spinal technique rather than epidural technique, and never perform regional anesthesia technique if the patient is receiving more than one antithrombotic medication simultaneously. Thank you. Thank you so much for your patient listening. I'll be happy to take any question if you have.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. It's, I mean, it can't be made more simpler than what you have made it for us. And it was really interesting. And I can ask a few of the questions on behalf of the, I mean, many students who have joined here for the quiz and for your lectures.
Yes,
sir, like we were talking about the heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. So how much is the incidence for it, and what should be done in case we encounter this thing and we find in the pre-anesthesia clinic that the patient is having?
The guideline, if the patient is on heparin, even the patient is on low molecular weight heparin, as I told you, it is mainly the unfractionated heparin which causes platelet dysfunction.
Definitely.
But even the patient is on low molecular weight heparin for more than 4 days, you should test the platelet number. Okay, if you have the facility, you should assess the function of the platelet with the TEG monitor. Okay, anything more than 80,000, if the patient is on heparin, you can go ahead and do the. But with the heparin, if the platelet count is less and falling trend, definitely you should not produce anything. And if heparin-induced thrombocytopenia has happened, and ideally don't go for platelet transfusion and go for a neuraxial technique. If it has happened, don't do any neuraxial technique. Please do only general anesthesia or do peripheral nerve blocks using an ultrasound and go ahead. Don't try central neuraxial blockade or deep blocks. This is what the ASPA's guideline is.
That's great. And any specific test for, I mean, once a patient is on heparin, as an anesthesiologist, we can ask for any special test which you feel?
Yes, sir. So if the patient is on unfractionated heparin, okay,
yes,
it is must to do 2 tests. One is APTT and platelet count. Okay. APTT should be less than 1.5 times the control, and platelet count should be always more than the 80,000. If the patient is in low molecular weight heparin, it is difficult to monitor. If you